buttoned that up.
I'm very relaxed, as you can tell. I've been stretching.
Oh, mate. For a veteran chat that's supposed to be tech-centric, that was fucking painful.
Yeah, fuck mate. It's probably my fault.
Okay. So, mate, because the last time we met was on a DFSW course in 2000 and fuck
7?
Maybe, yeah, Officer in Show DFSW.
Yeah, maybe 7 or 8, maybe. Yeah, long time. Another lifetime,
mate. I was just thinking then, because who's the dude that's just been released over in Afghan? Matula.
Oh yes,
with Luke Gavin. He was one of the guys that killed Luke Gavin. Hey, yeah,
that's right. So, yeah, and I found that old photo about 6 months ago when I moved house of actual DFSW officer NCO. I saw that old picture of us all standing there. Oh my god, that's a fucking flashback and a half, isn't it? I looked about 12, as I always did throughout my whole career. Needed a note from my mum to be there.
So what on excursions?
Yeah.
Sort of post-army and doing all that and then transitioning out, which is something that I'm sort of going through at the moment. But was there sort of pitfalls that you fell into from going in the army with all the boys, killing it? Because now the reason why we got you on is a couple of reasons is the field you work in's fucking crazy interesting, and the second one is you're super successful, mate, and we want to showcase people who have succeeded post getting out, and that
no, and well, I'll be honest, I don't think my transition out of military was as difficult as other blokes, to be honest, because and I'll be honest, I was never one of the boys. I didn't know any idea about rugby. I was a dirty Victorian. Actually, a bit of an aside, I turned up down the Shat by myself. This is, I think, the start of 2005 when I first got to 3. I turned up down the Shat and I went to where they were watching TV and they were watching rugby. And it was State of Origin. I'd never heard of State of Origin. And I sat down and I said, what's this? They're like, oh, fucking State of Origin, mate. Who's playing? And they're like, get the fuck out of here. Throwing cans at me. And so that was my welcome to 3. But no, but going back to your point, I don't think I had much trouble transitioning out because I didn't have that feeling of separation when I left. I had a few close mates, but I was never... and I'll be honest, I was never felt like I was part of that sort of collective sort of boys club, brotherhood type thing. And I wish I had been, but just maybe it wasn't it was just a personality thing. I was very young, very immature. I had a lot to learn in life. And I just don't think that gelled with a lot of the rest of the lads there, but great friends. I had a great time at 3 Hour, and it's the bedrock of the work ethic and the the controlled aggression and the speaking your mind and the ability to communicate. I learned from the military, hugely beneficial to my career now. So when I left, I didn't feel that disconnection as much, but I did float around between. I chased jobs that I thought were the cool things to do. And ended up being just not within what I should be doing at all. A lot of lessons learned, a lot of mistakes made. But I ended up starting to study cybersecurity. I'd always been a bit of a tech nerd. And I'd started my own business in the US. I'd actually moved to San Diego. This was about 2013 after floating around for a few years. And I went to San Diego and I burnt the boats, so to speak, didn't have a plan B, sold everything that I owned to be able to start this business and do risk management work. And a portion of that work was cybersecurity and IT security work. And, it ended up being far more successful than I expected it to be. and we ended up opening offices in Singapore and then one in Sydney. And due to visa complications, my now wife and I moved back to Sydney. And it's funny, when you do open a business in the US, when you come back here to Australia, even if the success in the US was, it was okay, it gets put under a magnifying glass back here in Australia, and you appear far more successful than what you actually were. So it actually opened up, and I'm like, fuck yeah, that's fine. I'll take that. I'll take every advantage you can when you're sort of a struggling, founder, and you've bootstrapped the whole business. I didn't give away equity or seek capital through either debt or equity at any stage during the business, and I'm glad I did that. I did contemplate it for a while, but I ended up just bootstrapping it the whole way. But what I found was I was too close to the business. And whilst I'd learned a lot running it, and I'd completed my studies and what I was studying at the time, and with cyber, and I was doing other degrees by then, I found that I was too close to the business. I couldn't see the forest through the trees, and I just felt like it wasn't the future for me. I wanted that more corporate experience, the bigger end of town, learning that polished corporate experience. So after I was bought out of the business by a larger sort of risk management firm, I got headhunted by Deloitte to come in and build their federal government cyber risk business from the ground up with one of the leaders that was already there. So that went quite well. We did great work there, won some big federal government contracts living down in Canberra, but I found that the culture of Deloitte wasn't for me. I really need a purpose to be able to do the work that I do. And whilst I love cybersecurity, I am very values driven and driven by a purpose that goes beyond profitability. And I found that some of their purported values that they said they lived by, it all fell away and came down to the quarterly revenue targets. And Deloitte's a fantastic business, and I'm certainly not criticizing them. It just wasn't an alignment of values. But they were surprised when I left, and I blamed my wife and said she didn't like the cold in Canberra. But so we left on good terms. But and since then I've joined a company called Anchora, and I've joined as their senior managing director, running their cyber risk business in APAC, based here out of Sydney. So it's a managing partner equivalent. It's those American rank structures, but brilliant role. They actually live by their values, a lot of freedom of movement, and I've joined a couple of boards in the past couple of years, a couple of mid to large size not-for-profits, where one is a disability services provider. They've got about 15 group homes across the greater Sydney region. Brilliant company. And then there's a small Indigenous not-for-profit based out of Perth that's doing some amazing work with their technology platform. So yeah, that's been quite interesting. But it's been a journey. It's been something that I learned a lot on. And you look back and you think to the person that you were in the military and just post-military, and I'm sure you guys have had these thoughts as well. You're like, fuck, what an idiot. I just...
that must take some balls, man, to sell up and go, you know what, I'm putting my eggs in one basket and I'm going to San Diego. Like, there's people that would never do that, man. People that would never step foot forward.
A lot of people,
no,
I think.
No, and I don't think that makes me, braver or better than anybody else. I think I just saw what the potential was in this market in cybersecurity, and it's very rare you'll find somebody that goes from being a shit-kicking grunt to, a managing partner of a big consulting firm within under a decade. Usually takes about 20 years to do that sort of thing, but that's not because of me being anyone special. It's just because of the industry and the rapid growth that it's experienced. And I sort of saw that before it all started kicking off in a massive way. And I saw that experience in the US would carry a lot of credibility and brand assurance for me as an individual. And because of what's helped me quite a bit as well is the clients that I had running my own business, quite a few of them were media organizations. And whenever something to do with cybersecurity or one of my relative topics that I cover came up around tech or anything, they'd give me a call because I was the only person they knew, and then I'd have my router head up in front of the TV. And to this date, whenever I get my head on the TV, one of the blokes from almost always from 3 will send me a message.
Yeah.
Fuck, mate, you've got a head for radio, I tell you.
I saw you a couple of times. I nearly spat my coffee out. I was like, this bloke has gone from you all the way, mate. It was like consulting and risk management. I think you were on Channel 7 or something. And was it 7?
Yeah, Channel 7. Yeah, I don't do too much TV stuff anymore. Mostly what I do is writing. I've found I've got a real passion for prose and writing, and I've sort of been tapping into that as a way of stress relief. I've been studying, writing for a while. I've always been an avid reader, like a voracious reader. I think I've read about 2 books a week for the past 20 years, and it's my learning style, because you can tell me your name, and I'm not an auditory learner or a kinesthetic learner, mind you. I like most blokes, I don't learn by doing. I actually learn by reading. So I'm fortunate enough where my memory, if I read something, I retain it. But every other learning style, it's just through one ear and out the other. I'm so shit with it.
Mate, I think they've got to invent another one because I haven't found one learning style that I can fucking pick stuff up with.
So beat it into yourself. And that's the thing. Some people are just pure repetition, and that's the only way that they can learn. I think David Goggins, I remember he said something like that, where he only learned through, doing it 100 times over. And some people just learn that way. But for me, it was through reading, and I found it really benefited my communication style, both verbally and in writing. I do quite a bit of writing for the Australian Financial Review now, and a few different publications and more security focused publications, and I really enjoy that. And I write my own blog on my website and things like that. I haven't updated it in a few months, but I know I'm quite fond of a rant. I talk about that thing, that purpose beyond profits, and being driven by values, and about perverse incentivization and intangible assets and things like that I'm really quite passionate about, that are newer subjects to the Australian environment, or the wider corporate environment anyway. I know most financial pundits, they talk about it a bit, but I see people like us as representatives of everything that corporate leaders should be in Australia, and particularly veterans. We're not just, physical security or PTs or, what have you. We're capable of so much more. And there's been so many sort of veterans that have come before us that has sort of laid that pathway and made it easier for blokes like us. But I think it's up to us to really establish a foothold and establish ourselves as the next generation of leadership, where we won't tolerate, the values that haven't been upheld by current corporate leadership or previous corporate leadership and boards, around issues of diversity and living by your values and, those types of things. But it's, I think the onus is on us to help people that are coming after us, and to really, hold a flag up for everybody that's like us, because typically, because of age or because of our status as a veteran, we're at a disadvantage, particularly in the upper echelons of corporate Australia. It's my intent to be on a ASX 200 board by next year, if not by the end of this year. And, it's extremely lofty ambitions, but to enact change, you have to do it from the top. It's a top-down thing. You can't just sit and complain about it in that middle ranks and hope that something changes and somebody comes along and does the right thing and is motivated by something other than money. So
because that veteran space, you see it a lot. There's a big growth in the people and culture in large corporations. That sector, not just it's not just your HR, but the growth of building a culture from the bottom up, or Do you think you're going to have much luck changing it from inside out?
Listen, culture in a company is probably the hardest thing to change. It's, it's like turning a boat in an ice float. It's almost impossible. But from the bottom up, no, I don't believe you've got a good chance of doing that. But from the top down, I think you've got a better chance of doing it. The board at a governance level drives the strategy and the culture of a business. That's their function, and they set the tone. And the leadership of the company set the tone, and through their hiring standards, it's up to the board to hire the CEO and hire the leadership of the business, and to ensure that the operations are aligned with the strategy that you set as a board. I think that's the position that you'd want to be in to enact change. And if you can get onto a board of a influential company that's quite open to public, criticism and perception, then that is it's a good start. But it's going to take a while. It's going to take a long time if I can do it at all, and I certainly won't be doing it by myself. It's about doing things together, and like I said, bringing other people with you on that journey, and getting other people to buy into exactly what it is that you're trying to do. But I think going back to your point about veterans, there's some great programs that are being run, by some of the larger corporates that try and hire veterans. Westpac's got their chief information officer there, and their CEO as well. They're very big on hiring veterans, so that's really great to see. It'd be good to see a program that hires veterans in every large organisation. And it gives them pathways of education once they get there, and learning, because I believe we've got a lot of value to add.
Yeah, I think because you hear about it, boys getting out of the army and getting in, and I've been in long enough now where guys have got out for a couple of years, have got back in, and like, why'd you get out? And they're like, because cities just don't. They were like, they just don't have your back. They're all out for themselves.
Yeah.
This culture that this idea, like this ideal that they're taking into the corporate world, or it's just not the same in army. And then, but the skills aren't transferable. Like even starting a new business or starting Swiss 8, you're like, okay, we're a veteran charity. We need to hire veterans. And you'd rather, and we sort of sat down and we all got together and we did a big redwood round table and said, do you take the hit, hire a veteran because he's got the culture and you can just train the skill set, or do you hire the civvy and train the culture? And our argument is you can't train the culture, so train the skill set.
It's hard because I think once you've been ex-military and once you're a veteran, I think you're always got that mindset. It's you never ever truly feel like a civilian. And I've been out of the military far longer than I was ever in the military. Now, I left end of 2010. And I didn't join till end of 2004. I was only in 6 years, and and I did 2 Timor trips, and that was it. As one of my fans told me, I'm barely a veteran, so I always liked that one. It hurt at the time when they told me that, but I actually now I've got it written on the inside of each of my journals. So now when I open it up, I go, "Yep, barely a veteran." It's still going though. It's motivating, So I can't comment on the depths of guys who went to the GAN in Iraq and things like that, of the challenges that they face, particularly with mental health, and that's something that I'm quite passionate about. But I prefer to help veterans and guys, particularly starting their own businesses, because I went through that hell of making those mistakes and doing ham-handed cold emails to clients and them never speaking to me again because I fucked it up so badly at the start, and I just had no idea how to run a business. And the sole purpose of a CEO is capital allocation, and I didn't even know what fucking capital was back then. And it was a mozza, and I had to learn by mistakes over and over and over again, because I searched for a long time, man. Like, I searched for a mentor that just got me and got the veteran attitude and saw my potential. I didn't find anybody, not one. I couldn't find anybody that could help me. And I was devastated. I felt so alone for so long, for so many years. And I actually had some troubles of myself, sort of mental health wise, like with anxiety and depression, particularly anxiety. That really hit me quite badly, particularly with a lot of the media work I was doing, and the fear of criticism and fear of not being liked and being judged by people. That really played on my mind for many years. I felt adrift. I didn't feel like I had an anchor point. Fortunately, I had my now wife, who was that rock for me during that time. And I did end up seeing the light, through the trees. But it ended up. It took far longer than it should have. And I remember how bad that was, and the struggles that I had while I was in the US, and even when I came back here to Australia. And I just, you feel alone, and I'd never want anybody else to feel like that. It was crushing, particularly when you're running your own business and you don't feel like anybody could understand. And I love the veteran community, but we do have some characteristics that are great in one way, but they can fail you in another. And that's that constantly have to be the tough guy, having to hold everybody up and having to be the protector. And, you can't show any sign of weakness, and admitting to feelings and admitting to anxiety and depression is, weak sauce, you know what I mean? Or allowing that weakness to show through. But I found and I saw, and I still see even now, every second week I speak to a psychologist / performance coach, not so much for mental health issues, but more to keep me on the right track. Because, we all spent countless hours in the gym, and we honed our bodies and our minds in terms of our work, and, did all the physical stuff for years, but we did nothing with our minds. We did nothing with our mental health. Why would you not spend time in the gym for your mind and your mindset and your mental health? And I don't know if this is PC to say, but I've got the ball handling skills of a lesbian. I can't play footy or sport or anything like that, but my mind is sharp. My mind is like, I need to keep it sharp, and I need to be there for my family, and I need to be there for the business and the staff that, look to me to make decisions, so they're not on their asses, unable to provide for their family. So I think
I never understood that either, mate.
No, we need to remove that stigma,
And why do you need to go? So, and that's the whole reason we started the proactive mental health charity, was so that go and see a performance coach, a psychologist, and do checkups. You go and get services on your car regularly. You don't wait till you run out of oil and then you're like, I don't know why my car fucking stops, like, because you didn't maintain it, mate. Yeah. And people just go down this track and they reinforce bullshit, or they'll go and see a girlfriend or a boyfriend or a mate who is only going to reinforce one particular narrative.
Oh, mate, yeah.
Won't go with won't have an objective or view of a particular point. And why don't you see an expert? You know what I mean? So, yeah.
Yeah, that's so true. And I and going back to my point is around that mental health point and not having a mentor. And that's one thing I'm quite passionate about now, is more working behind the scenes. I don't really do it overtly, but working with guys who've started their own business, so particularly guys who want to get into cybersecurity, guys and girls who want to get into cybersecurity, and they reach out for advice or how to get a job and things like that. And I'll bust my ass to make it happen for them and to give them advice and to get them enrolled in university and, get them RPL at a uni, and, and I think it's important that veterans understand the opportunities that are available to them in this market, and that there's always help available. It crushes me to think of guys who are struggling mentally that think there's only one way out, and even worse, when they do take that way out, it's far, the shit that we've seen, and all boys that we know as well, so needlessly gone, when I just one fucking phone call, and I know what if and if only are poisonous terms. You can't go back on the past, but I want to prevent that from happening in the future. And what veterans need more than anything else is a purpose.
100%.
And have a mission, and a mission where others are along for the ride with you, where they're not by themselves, and that you've got a collective group of people there that aren't going to fucking judge you, that just because you have lofty ambitions and you want to reach the very top of your craft and you can put your foot down and go, yes, I am this or I am that, they're not going to cut you down because of tall poppy syndrome or because of misplaced insecurities that they have that they project onto you because they lack the courage to stand up and say, I am as well. And that is an issue that we do have as a veteran community. We can stand on our soapbox and blame the DVA as much as we fucking like, and they do have their failures, of course, a myriad failures, but we owe it to ourselves to be there for one another. The military is a great proving ground for people like us, but not everything in the military is transferable. That you don't have to be a killer every day of your life. There's nothing wrong. It takes courage to be kind constantly, even if you might disagree with somebody, what they've said, or anything like that. Being there for one another, we owe it to one another, and to not judge and to be kind. It's hard to find. It's difficult. There's great groups, and I think the veteran community is improving. And I think we're being more and more there for each other and letting go of the tough guy bullshit and finding out what everything truly means once you join the civilian environment and who your real friends are. But it's changing. I feel the tide is turning. I feel that especially guys like yourselves who are really putting that mental health messaging and that courage and that having the courage to speak out and to say, you know what, I'm not okay. I could use a hand. Just a call or, just to put things into perspective. And you have no idea of the ripple effect of what your actions will do as a business at Swiss 8. You might only see the first-hand ramifications of your efforts, but I guarantee you there's a ripple effect, second and third factor, where the families and the people that have their dads or their mums still there or what they go on and do and whose lives they affect down the track. I think it's laudable what you guys do.
I think it's about trying to cheers, mate. But it's just about taking that victimhood away from people and being like, you don't have to be a victim.
We're not victims,
Yeah.
No. I think the veteran community is really standing up and starting to empower itself like a lot.
I agree.
The US went through it a few years ago as well. You'd see like a tangible change from victimhood to successful businesses like Black Rifle Coffee and things like that.
Yeah.
And I think dudes are really learnt lessons from other people and then using it as like looking up to boys like that and being like, yeah, we can really push through and do some stuff.
Yeah.
Which brings me up. Are we allowed to talk about the Tech Accelerator up in Townsville next?
Yeah, man. Talking about that, you're saying about guys helping out with guys setting up their own businesses and trying to get into it, and you being a mentor. We partnered with the Inno Club, which is a side business of an RSL, but we're partnered with them, and it's effectively a tech accelerator and slingshot for veterans and we've just finished one in Sydney this weekend. And we're firing one off on the 21st of August up in Townsville, the Townsville Casino. So,
what's it
that's
called?
something it's called Inno Club.
Inno Club. Okay.
Yeah. Mate, go and check it out and have a look and
I'd love
see
to.
if it's something you want to get into.
Yeah, it's just a good shout out to all the boys up in Townsville. We're trying to get some people up there, which would be good to get, younger guys trying to get their businesses up and running or their ideas.
Yeah.
Max, I think you know more details about sort of what they're providing and stuff like that.
That's fantastic. I hadn't heard about it, to be honest. That's a great idea.
Yeah, it'd be so much.
Yeah, I think
it's going to be mental, mate. So, I mean, the object is funded. We'll accelerate. We'll try and fail their business concepts. We'll move it forward. Give them mentorship over a couple of weekends out of a month consistently.
Yeah.
Fail the business, develop the business, and then fund the It's got to be tech. It's got to be a tech aspect of it. Do you know what I mean?
Okay. Yeah.
And then fund that aspect, whether it's helping them with costs of developing websites or whatever it may be. Yeah, so really excited about it, man. Let's see how we go.
Yeah, that's great. I think it'd be worth having people in there, and I'm more than happy to put my hand up and recommend other people as well, but to donate their time to talk about business development and marketing and sales, because what you'll often find with technology founders is whilst they have the technical capability to deliver the products or services that they are building, oftentimes it fails when it comes to actually selling the product or service or marketing the business or allocating capital where it's necessary and investing, and particularly if they do well at first and they have to go to they look for a cap raise. It's a murky world to navigate at the best of times. And if you can get, and I know a number of leaders who'd be willing to donate their time to point these guys in the right direction and to help them out and even make introductions. So I think the more that you issue that clarion call to people to help out with this and throw it out there on LinkedIn, and I'm more than happy to share it and get people involved as well. I think that can only benefit people. I don't think you can keep that that light dimmed. You've got to get it out there as much as you can.
Yeah, that's what we'll get it out. And the COVID restrictions is hard at the moment, but we're going to get. Yeah. I think we're getting about 50 people up at the Townsville Casino, but we'll put a bit of a post up after this. But
yeah, great.
Hey man, and there's some fucking cool concepts that I wanted to bring up completely with zero segue. I want to talk about. I want to talk about TikTok.
No fucking rule.
I want to talk about TikTok, mate.
Oh God.
Adrian is anti-TikTok, and I'm like, I saw a post about a US senator saying Chinese own it, and you're fucking. So, and we're talking so this podcast is like mostly goes out to 18 to 40-year-old dudes chilling in cage. Like it's about 11,000 people listening every week, but it's the boys. Does TikTok, is it a fucking thing or is it bad?
Oh man. Well, purely from a privacy and security perspective, the data permissions that TikTok requires of its users upon sign up, and I'm one of the fucking weirdos that reads everything that I sign up for, hence the reason I'm not on Instagram or Facebook. I am on Twitter though, so I'm a fucking hypocrite. But
that was my next question.
I'm on Twitter, so I'm a hypocrite, but I'm not on all of them. So I have half a soapbox to stand on. But the data permissions required to be a user of TikTok are far in excess of probably all of the other platforms combined. Regardless of whether it's a state actor that owns that platform, the data permissions that you have to give away are far-reaching and wide and go far beyond the required data usage for the functionality of that social media platform. So just on that basis alone, I recommend that people probably don't use TikTok. That's my personal opinion, and disclaimer, not reflective of the opinion of the organization which employs me. Please don't fire me, Ankara. But I think that the argument that it's owned by the Chinese, put as much stead as that by you as you like, but we're more than happy to use phones that have been developed in China and use a lot of other technical and technology tools and bits of kit that have been developed in the same place. And, a lot of our infrastructure is based on or built by Chinese. I think it is overblown, that portion, and it's used more to sell newspapers and advertising to people on TV and news segments. But I think concerning just data and privacy, data security and data privacy considerations, I wouldn't download it, but it's up to each individual what their level of acceptable risk is when it comes to their data. So what's not acceptable for me, for an 18-year-old girl who doesn't give a shit about, what she gives away to the social media platform and just wants to watch those hilarious videos on it, and they are hilarious. My wife has TikTok and she's not going to delete it no matter how much I want her to. But I've watched those videos over her shoulder and I've been crying from laughing. They're bloody hilarious. But I can see the allure of TikTok. But I think for most of us who and some of the boys who love chucking the tinfoil hat on, and they're like, everyone's out to get us. The Chinese, they're watching me through my phone. They're like, Dazza, no, they're not, mate. They're not watching you. They don't want to see you pulling your put in front of porn on the Friday night. No one's watching you, mate. Nobody wants to see it. You've got to think about what your exposure is. Is it likely? You've got to think about the whole threat actor thing. Do you have something the threat actor wants? If your data isn't valuable unless it's in aggregate with a shitload of other people's data, then it is highly unlikely they'll target you personally. Same with our government. Not saying you trust everybody, but you have to be realistic about whether you're going to be targeted or not.
Yeah, I was a part of a company that was putting a biometric enrollment system in to get people into the building. And so many people were concerned, and they were like, what happens if the Russians get my fingerprints? What is it? I'm like, A, Russians won't want your fingerprints, and B, how do you unlock your phone every day? How you unlock your phone with your fingerprint?
Yeah.
Are you trusting Apple?
No, exactly. It's all about perception, and I think the media likes to jump onto it and they blow it up out of proportion, like they did with the COVID Safe app. Like the COVID Safe app's a massive piece of shit and doesn't work properly, but it's safe security wise.
Yep.
So that's the thing. They're like, they'll get my details and where I've been from. Like, mate, I reckon if you have any one of the social media apps, they're like, no, I'm not going to give away my details. It's an invasion of privacy.
I know. I found that hilarious. And whilst there isn't a direct comparison, and they're not an exact comparison about COVID Safe app, people don't trust the government, but they're like, I am not giving away a name, even though I can use a fake name and my phone number, and it doesn't track me at all. But I'm not giving away any of those details, even if I get sick, to help other people not die. But then as soon as they write that rant on Twitter, they're like, that's fucking great. And they're like, hello, menu log. Yeah, my credit card details are, I live here. Oh, the CVV number? Yeah, it's 284. And my dog's name is Lawrence. And no worries. Go back to ranting on Twitter. You're like, oh, yes, the beef rain gang's at the door, but I'm not going to fucking stop someone from dying by downloading the COVID Safe app. Fuck that.
So 100%. People are whack. Too many conspiracies going around. Everyone's scared.
Man, the whole have you seen the whole QAnon thing out of the US?
No.
You haven't seen that. So quick overview, the QAnon thing, it's mostly Trump supporters that have sort of been spinning this up. But on a 4chan forum, I think it was earlier this year, someone called Q started posting conspiracy theories, and Q is the highest level of security clearance you can get in the US, apparently. It's some Department of Energy security clearance. And anyways, people started believing it. And what they believe, the basis of their opinion, is that there's a deep state within government that is controlled by these pedophile ringleaders who are seeking to take over the US, and Donald Trump is going to stop them all. Now, the premise of and the basis of their one of their earlier conspiracy theories, that the headquarters of the pedophile ring, the deep state within government, was out of a Comet Pizza Hut in, I believe it was North Carolina. Anyway, old mate comes along with a fucking AR-15 and Colt 9mm, armed to the teeth, busts into this pizza shop and holds everybody up. This happened. It's called Pizzagate. Google it. Busts in, fucking show me where the kids are. Like, where are the kids? They're like, they're in the basement. I know they're in the basement. And the guy's like, we don't have a fucking basement. Anyway, police surround the place. 45 minutes later, he comes out and he goes, it looks like that. I can't believe everything that I read on the internet. I'm not taking the piss. Every single word of that is true. Google that shit, man. Google Pizzagate. There's even pictures of him.
I'll be linking Pizzagate in the description of this podcast 100%. That's golden.
And they still believe it.
So the head of this super ultra secret high level society was working out of a pizza shop.
Yeah, the pedophile deep state within government, that was their headquarters in their basement that didn't exist. So you'll see a lot of people that have QAnon on their shirts, or Q in their name, or typically followed by MAGA, Make America Great Again. The US political system is a absolute mess. Their hyper focus on nationalism is doing the country a great disservice. I'm very afraid for them.
So, did Russia Did Russia interfere with US elections?
Oh no, most certainly they did. Most certainly they did. There's actual basis to that. There's actual fact and evidence that supports that they did. It was mostly misinformation that they communicated via social media, and that allowed that really threw the support behind Trump and started these big conspiracy theories and really damaged Hillary's reputation. And they did hack into the DNC, the Democratic National Committee's databases, but it didn't hack into the actual voting database or didn't affect any of the vote count. A lot of people believe that, but that's just misinformation and probably a bit of miscommunication from the media. But they most certainly did hack the DNC, and they spread a shitload of misinformation through social media, and it did affect the outcome in my mind. But it was very clear that it was Russian actors, whether it was state-sponsored or a organised criminal group, perhaps paid for by state actors. You never know. It's one of the hardest jobs in cybersecurity when you determining a threat actor. It's called attribution, and it's almost impossible to do just because of the level of obfuscation and opaqueness to the internet. You through VPNs and various other tips and tricks, you can bounce your actual location and where you're doing your dastardly work from anywhere on the planet. It's very easy to hide your signature.
Crazy stuff.
Because what did they say? What was the biggest one for that? Was that, I mean, obviously the embassy stuff was legitimate.
Embassy?
With was it Benghazi?
Oh, yes. Libya, the Benghazi thing with Hillary Clinton, where they the whole argument that she didn't send anybody when they called for help. Is that the whole thing behind
something like that? Yeah.
What was the movie about that? Was it called Benghazi?
13
something
hours.
13 hours?
Yeah, 13 hours or something like that. You can't remember. I like that.
Well, there's another one where they do
13 hours.
Yeah.
Saying the people who the groups that operate on the internet were originally, I don't know what I was reading the other day. I went down, when you start on YouTube and then you start down a particular line, and then before you end up, you're in some left or right conspiracy of the world, probably heading to Pizzagate.
Yeah.
But it was saying that the initial people that started using the internet originally were the outsiders, and then it generated an entire culture of online stuff that we do today that is buried deep across everything that happens on most platforms, and then that's really set a complete alternate sort of culture, I suppose. I don't know.
Yeah, well, I think the advent of the internet came out of researchers needing some way to share their research with one another across different universities, and they ended up creating that network and that web. I think that was the genesis of the internet from memory. I was trying to I only read about this a couple of years ago. It was interesting where it came out of, actually. But it's funny where it's permeated throughout all of our lives now, hasn't it? You've got connected bloody fridges and washing machines and fucking fish tanks and all sorts of shit. Everything you do is wireless. Like if you had have told, you think back to high school, 20 years ago, if you had thought back to high school then when you've got your snazzy 3210 that, your phone could do half the things that it does now, you'd think you're mad. But we take it for granted now, the technology that we have in our hands. It's just amazing.
Yeah, I don't know what people. So identity and what people give up, I'm not sure. So they're doing online. Were they doing online licenses soon? So Queensland or New South Wales?
New South Wales has. So I use it myself. It's on my phone, wherever my phone is. The digital licenses through the Roads and Maritime Services app or the New South Wales Gov app and it actually looks like when you tilt it, you can tell it's not a fake. You can't use screenshots and stuff because it has that sort of back image of the New South Wales crown or shield or something like that, where you can see the reef and things like on different angles, so you can tell it's real. But that's completely rolled out as I think it's a trial stage right now with New South Wales, but it's available to everybody, and it actually replaces the need for a physical license. But so I haven't carried a physical wallet I think probably a good 9 months. I do everything out of my phone, everything.
Yeah, I'm the exact same. If I could dump my license, I'd do it straight away.
Yeah.
If they bring it into Queensland or wherever I am, I'd do it straight away.
Oh, it's really handy.
Bringing it into Queensland?
What's that?
Are they bringing it into Queensland?
I don't know if they have. I'll be doing it straight away because that's awesome. Because I love having just everything on my phone.
So then, what's the argument if you have a tax file number that definitely identifies you as it? So I'm talking about your personal identification and who knows what and all this. You have a tax file number that identifies you to the tax department, right? And you have a driver's license that's now going to be online that definitely identifies you, and everyone's going to get a driver's license.
Yeah.
What personal data are people trying to protect these days? Like, do we just get on board and just go, for fuck's sake, can we just name, address, and phone? Like, is it because maybe one day they're going to start a revolution and they don't want, no, you're not. You're a middle-aged dude. You're probably going to go to work, stay in the same job you're doing, and fucking die in it. Have two kids. They hate, get divorced, crack on. You're not going to be the leader of the resistance.
Yeah, true. Yeah, John Connor. I think that you need a healthy dose of cynicism. I think it is worthy to not just take the government and the people who store our data at their word that, we're doing the right thing, because invariably we've seen that they don't do the right thing unless they're held accountable or the questions are asked. So I think a healthy dose of cynicism is good. When you take it too far and you have zero trust, it doesn't work, and I think you miss out on a lot of the benefits that you can get from technology. It comes down again to your level of acceptable risk, your risk appetite. And, if you look at your data and you look into and do research into the technology and the platforms that both you and especially your family, if you've got young kids or young teenagers or, people that start using social media, it's definitely worth you looking into exactly what their activities are. And there's some great sort of, functions within most technology platforms and technology tools that allows you to, maintain your security and, using and just basic hygiene tips like using complicated passwords, and using multi-factor authentication, having it switched on across all of your apps, and, not using the same password across all your devices, things like that, just basics, and not sharing personal information out everywhere. And just because you've got a security clearance, it's probably not the best idea to put it on your LinkedIn. Things like that. Like you see guys do it a lot. It's not a massive sort of no, but I wouldn't be comfortable doing it. It just makes you a
hashtag top secret.
Yeah. If guys with PV are doing it, they need to get their fucking head read a bit. But baseline or NV1, I probably wouldn't do it, but it's not the end of the world. Yeah.
We should have hit you up before we made our Facebook account. We got hacked last year. Remember that, Max?
Yeah, we got Facebook got legit.
Oh, shit.
Sorry, not Facebook. We got hit hard.
Oh, damn.
And we had to all go double factor authentication, all the stuff you spoke about. I had one password and it was a super hard password.
Yeah. No. They were
Anthony.
Anthony, and then name and then birthday.
One exclamation mark.
Yeah, there you go. Swiss 8 for life at one.
Yeah.
They reckon about 10 characters, both uppercase, lowercase, symbol, and a number is the best. They reckon that'll take, even with machine learning and supercomputers, that'd take a number of 100 years to break. So,
so 10 characters with
10 characters, uppercase, lowercase, symbol, and a numeral. Yeah. and that at least 10 characters. And even then, you probably wouldn't even need multi-factor unless you've sort of stored your password in the wrong place. Better to have both, like defense in depth. We all learned that.
Yeah.
But yeah.
So what is going to happen? Because you spoke about that AI and machine learning. But what about like people just sit at home? Like, do you remember when like the internet first came out? Everyone thought they were literally back in school, sitting in IT class with a N60. I don't know what the fuck it was.
Oh,
it was
like the old IBMs. Yeah.
IBMs.
Yeah,
yep.
That's right.
And everyone's like, everyone's downloading the terrorist handbook and thinking they're a hacker on the weekend.
It's called the Anarchy's Cookbook, mate.
Yeah.
Yeah, that's the one. People there are people that sit at home and just want to hack shit because I'm completely oblivious to it.
Yeah, no, there are, and that's how most people get their start. Is they just enjoy seeing what they can get into. Just fucking around when you're a kid. It's the same sort of kids that they used to prank call people from the for free. They use the redial thing on the old public payphones in the country town where I grew up. We didn't have mobile phones. I was a farm boy. You get bored, you ride your pushy down to the phone box, the only one in town, and start prank calling people, and or trying to get into your neighbour's bloody dial-up internet somehow, just people that enjoy breaking things. And I think veterans do quite well as we call them ethical hackers. I think hackers are very beneficial if you can bring them over to the good side. The penetration testing and things like that. It's quite handy skill set to have in cybersecurity industry. But veterans do quite well with it because they like to fuck shit up, just see how much damage they can cause. But we're all good at breaking things. But it's interesting, the mindset of different hackers. And they're not always with complex IT backgrounds or educations. It's just typically it's some teenager fucking around. That big Twitter hack that just happened recently where he was posting from all these different high-profile accounts. That was just a 16-year-old teenager chilling out in Florida somewhere, fucking around. They arrested him for it. He's likely going to go to juvie for ages. So, it's a very serious crime.
Yeah, because then he raised a whole bunch of money saying he was going to donate to a charity.
He said, if you want your something, it was almost like a quasi ransomware where he said, if you want your platforms back, donate this much Bitcoin. So I think he made, or something like that. He asked people to donate Bitcoin or something like that. I think he made like a couple of $100,000. Obviously, he didn't get any of it, but they arrested him soon after. But I don't think the people got their money back. Bitcoin doesn't seem like the type of functionality that gives refunds in forms of hard cash. So I think that money,
once it's sent, it is.
Once it's gone, it's gone. But talking about AI and machine learning, I think it has a very bright future, but I'd be wary of anybody touting the benefits of AI in its current form because nobody's done that successfully yet. I sort of roll my eyes when I hear cybersecurity vendors talk about their AI platform. Like, mate, it's not AI, it's machine learning. You're just feeding a shitload of data into it, and it's got these set protocols that you've coded yourself. It's not actually learning. It's not doing it itself in a cognitive manner and thinking, paradigm breaking and thinking outside the box. It's thinking with very strict limitations that you coded into its algorithm. It's machine learning, and there is a big difference between ML and AI. So, I'm very wary of people when they talk about AI in its truest sense.
So what does Google have then? What's Google? They're trying to develop an AI, or they have an AI.
Yeah, well, theirs is probably further along than anybody else's, I would imagine, because of their enormous budget. And I don't know enough about what Google's doing, to be honest. I just know that AI hasn't really been successfully rolled out in cybersecurity yet, but I know Google's done it. Yeah, so no, AI, they were using the first sort of machines that sort of pointed towards AI was Deep Blue and Deep Blue 2, which were supercomputers, which beat Gary Kasparov, the chess grand champion, and then Go, the computer that beat the champion at Go only recently. I think it was like 2009 or 2012 or something. And that was a far more complex game, and it was actually learning as it went along and had to think outside the box, and an unbelievable technology. But, to have the application where one day it might replace the human mind for complex tasks, that's decades away. You know, the machine learning is extremely good at replacing humans for rote tasks or repetitive tasks, but for anything more complex, it's not yet, you know, applicable across really any industry.
Because Elon Musk is a little scared. Elon and even Bill Gates, I know they've been jumping on a couple of times saying AI is bloody. I was like, fuck, is Terminator coming in 15 years? Are we fucked or what?
Yeah. The whole Terminator thing. What do they call it? It's when AI becomes sentient. It's the what's the thing called? It's the I'm trying to remember it. It's when like it becomes self-aware. There's a word for it. It's the point of I've got to Google it. Point of this will fuck with me. Point of what? Technological singularity. The point of singularity, where AI becomes sentient and Terminator happens. You know, and they figure out that they no longer need humans to survive. And
hopefully it's another 15 years. Yeah,
we become batteries.
Mate, I hope this has been an absolute mind blow, man. And obviously, I know you've moved from digger in the army all the way through the corporate space, and you really are a bastion or a model for which people can see and be like, you can move and grow and move through these sort of things, and be an asset. And you're a humble guy, man. And hopefully, if you're keen, we can get you back on if some crazy stuff in the world happens, cyber-wise, and you want to talk it down to the boys and talk some shit about cyber. That'd be great.
Yeah, no, I'd love to, man. Thank you. That's very kind, man. It's been an honour being on here. I think you boys do great work. It's very necessary for the veteran community to have people like yourselves who can, you know, be a voice of the veteran community and show what we can really do, and that then people aren't alone. So it's been an honour being on the show with you guys. And you know, anything that you need from me or from you know, in the future, I'd be happy to be back on. And likewise, any of the ventures that you're doing yourselves or with NO Club, let me know. I'm more than happy to help. And likewise, any of the listeners, like, send me a message on LinkedIn or send me a message on the website, or get my phone number off these boys. I'm more than happy to have a chat, or if you want to get into cyber or tech, you know, I'm happy to make intros. Just whatever help you need, just give me a call. More than happy to help. I answer everybody.
Thanks, man. You're a fucking legend. Cheers, mate.
Thanks, guys.